Song Revolution with John Chisum on the NRT Podcast Network.
Hey guys, welcome to Song Revolution. Again, we talk a lot about songwriting on this show because songwriting is a huge part of my life. As a 40-year veteran songwriter, it's still such a joy for me to write my songs about finding the love of Jesus. And our whole company, Nashville Christian Songwriters, exists to empower you to fulfill your passionate calling too. So be sure to check out all the great resources we have for you over at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. You just might be amazed at what you find there. And you need to know that we have a wide range of free and premium coaching resources to fit any budget for anyone ready to become a better communicator of the gospel through your music. You can also set up a free songwriter discovery call with us to see exactly which program you're ready for right now, so you don't have to waste another day without fulfilling your call to write songs that have the potential of impacting the world. That link is in the show notes where you can easily access it. Well, on today's show, I want to introduce you to a new worship leader, songwriter, and now recording artist, John Marc Kohl. John Marc is part of Shane and Shane's Dallas-based worship initiative that raises up great worship leaders and resources for the church on a grassroots level. These guys are impacting the world through artists like John Marc and their great lineup of worship resources available at theworshipinitiative.com. Well, John Marc and we went after it in this episode to uncover some of the deepest spiritual experiences that we've had, but we laughed a lot. I haven't been out in a while, so I got a little punchy, but John Marc rolled with it, and his wit is up for the sparring match. I love his new record still, and he performs an incredible acoustic version of this title cut, and it's worth the wait. Minnie Mouse, watch out. This guy's got a falsetto that won't quit, and there is no auto-tune on this track, so wait for it, guys. Well, listen, before we get into the show, I want to welcome our new sponsor, Music City Acoustics. So here's the truth. I went after Music City Acoustics to let me brag on their amazing work because they helped me trick out my new studio here at the office. I call it the Chiz Pod, and it's just off the chains. No more post-production hassles with a slap-happy room. And if you do home recording, you know what I mean. I have this beautiful, clean sound that's like recording my show in the closet, only with a lot more room and I can breathe. Well, Music City Acoustics craftsmanship is superb, and I was crazy to ever consider a do-it-yourself sound treatment. They not only create the highest quality sound panels, bass traps, and other acoustical treatments, but they'll work directly with you to create a design that will vastly improve the sonic quality of your home studio, office, church, and even your Winnebago. Just give Music City Acoustics a call and they'll get you fixed up with a special deal if you mention the Chiz Pod when you place your first order. That's Music City Acoustics, another homegrown family business right here in my hometown of Nashville. Well, their information is in the show notes, so do your ears a favor and reach out. Well, John Marc really brought it in this interview today and even turned the tables on me a couple of times, asking me some deep questions about how to stay fresh and creative despite the demands of life like family, traveling, ministry. But my favorite part of the discussion was when we talked about the demon of perfectionism and the only thing that can cure it to set you up for your most creative season ever. So you don't want to miss that discussion. Well, I love this interview because I see in this young man the best of what's happening in the modern worship movement. He's a true heart, and he really wants to make a difference in bringing authentic worship in his music, songwriting, his marriage, and his whole life. Well, I know you're going to love getting to know him too. So here's Worship Initiative resident artist, singer-songwriter, worship leader, and my new best friend, John Marc Kohl. It's good to have you on the show today, John Marc Kohl.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, John.
Do you go by John Marc?
Yes, I do. John just feels wrong sometimes.
Well, hey, come on.
Well, no, it's I mean.
For you.
Yeah, right. What I mean when I say John feels wrong, it's probably not the best thing to start off the show with.
It's a little awkward, but.
But yeah, no, it's my parents just are so hipster, and they just decided that my name's going to be complicated for the rest of my life and called me John Marc.
It could be worse, but
it could be worse.
Yeah, so up here in Smash Vegas for a few days from Dallas.
Dallas. Is that Dallas and delicious
It
combined?
is. It totally
Dallas.
is. Do you like living there? I mean, is it delish?
It is. What is happening? It is so delish, and just I'm so grateful to be there. We have great church and great family and community, and I lucked out and I don't have a super long commute like a lot of my friends
There you
do.
go.
So it's great.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's just great to have you, and part of the worship initiative and all that kind of stuff. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you get involved with that, and Shane and Aaron Williams, which has been on our show before, and that great bunch of folks.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, they're great. I'm friends with their guitar player. I've been playing with them for a while, and we got connected, and one of the Shanes saw a video of a song I'd written, and I convinced them I knew how to play bass. I've only been playing worship bass for 4 years.
Wow.
Which,
well, you think in 4 years you could pick up some good worship bass?
You don't need 4 years. So I can fake it.
Right.
And I faked it enough to get onto an album with them, and then kind of the rest is history. And it's been a wonderful community of people who love Jesus and want to sing about Jesus and His Word, and who are also just very healthy. And it just seems like long term.
I'm sorry. What was that last word you said?
Healthy.
Health. I don't know that word. Can you help?
Yeah.
What does it mean to be healthy? We've had COVID for crying out loud.
Yeah, you got me.
Even if you were kind of like sane, then, do you think we're like still in the COVID whiplash thing and don't know how to be normal anymore? Or what does that mean for you guys when you say healthy?
What it means for me is being a worship leader and singing songs about Jesus in front of people. It's just inherently a difficult thing to stay grounded. I think just in itself, being a Christian artist, I think is weird. And from the beginning, being a part of the worship initiative and being just mentored and encouraged by the Shanes and Aaron Williams and Davey Flowers, all of them.
Oh, I love Davey. We're trying to get her on the show.
She's amazing. I'm her biggest fan.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn how to steal her vocal runs, but it's not working.
No,
for me.
Kind of a tall white guy.
It's not.
I don't know.
It's not going well, but I'm trying to learn. But basically from the beginning, they're very honest about the inherent dangers of doing this. And
like what? What are they? What's the top 7 deadly sins of CCM?
Oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm still new to this. My first album, ask me all these. My first album came out 4 weeks ago.
We'll give you another year or two. Then
I don't know I don't know anything, but I know that these people do.
Yeah,
and they've stayed healthy, and they have great marriages. They're plugged into their churches.
All right,
great to learn from them.
Yeah, Phillips, Craig and Dean, which been around forever. I was at the record company when that group started years ago, a lifetime ago, but those guys have always been the epitome of that. They've always been pastors, and they've fit in all of their music around what they were doing in the local church. I always admired that. So is it the same kind of vibe that you're describing there with all those folks down there in Texas?
It is. They live it out.
Yeah. And so you came to be part of them, just getting to know them a little bit, playing for them. But what does it mean to be part of their deal? Like, do y'all have meetings where you have light candles and read scriptures and stuff? What does it mean? It kind of sounds like I'm part of the worship initiative. And so, what kind of meetings do you have? Yeah. Is it weird?
It's so weird.
The Shanes won't hear this. We'll make sure they
won't.
don't.
Okay,
So
good.
Dish it out there, bro.
Yeah, well, half of my time is spent writing music, doing things for the artist side. So we started a record label a year ago.
And so do you have a place you gather? Like, is there a
we've
building everybody goes
we've got
to?
a studio we all meet in with some offices, and it's just a great community of people that love Jesus. And
Awesome.
yeah, so that's going great. And then half of the time I spend developing content to develop and resource worship leaders. And so
And tell us about that. What do you
how
mean?
to play songs, doing tutorial videos, writing blogs.
Oh, wow.
How do we just create just a tool through the worship initiative to just help worship leaders who are maybe isolated, who don't have a lot of people around them. We do that through a website. And so it's a cool balance doing 50-50. So half artist and doing writing songs and traveling and leading in ministries. And then the other half just serving worship leaders. And it's been a cool blend.
That's cool.
It's been fun.
And you've been with them how long? Just
a year. Just over a year.
So it's still kind of fresh.
Yeah, it's still,
Do you have like a goal? Like, okay, if I could just make 3 years here, then everything's cool. Or is it more like, hey, whatever, God?
Yeah, we take it about 18 months at a time with how we have it structured. But for me, it just feels like these are the people I want to be with. Feels like family.
So first record just dropped a month ago, right? October this year. Yeah. What does that feel like? What does it feel like to be you right now?
It feels like, have you ever had a near-death experience?
A couple, I think.
Okay. It's kind of a joke, but it feels like post near-death experience, like this almost killed me, and now I have this sobering reality of how grateful I am for where I am.
Yeah.
Just the process of, as a creative, making something and then finishing something. It's always been hard for me to do. The team helped me do it. So I'm coming out on the other side and just so grateful and can see everything clear.
Well, what was so hard about it? I mean, it's like every songwriter's dream to make a record and get out there and sing your songs. So what was so hard about it, bro?
The death of potential. You know that feeling?
He said with a very straight face. So.
Yeah, you know that feeling when you get a master back?
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how good it is. There's a part of me that just makes me sad because I'm so in love with getting things better and better. And then when I realize, wait, no, it's done. I'm like, wait, it can't. The potential is gone. Yeah. And being okay with that is very hard. I have to, that perfectionist thing, I have to work through it and realize it's okay. It's good to let things go when they're ready.
I talk a lot about perfection with the writers that I coach here at Nashville Christian Songwriters because so many people are afraid to even try because they don't want to be judged. Either they don't finish a song or they don't even let themselves start a song. And then they say, well, I'm a perfectionist. And I've kind of lit into a few people, once I know they love me, it's like, okay, you know what perfectionism is, don't you? It's just pride. That's all it is, because it's one thing to pursue excellence. It's another thing to fear the rejection of people.
The motivation.
And it really is that underlying motivation, are you protecting yourself or, hey, get it out there and then let's work on it. But you got to get it out first. You got to get something on paper. It's the number one reason that authors aren't published because they never finish their book. They never write a book. That's the number one reason. It's the same with songwriters, I think. And especially today, you have grown up natively to technology. Those of us who are in the twilight of our years,
whatever.
I learned it. I took to it pretty naturally, but what's it like for you? Just like, it's so easy these days. Like when you're working on a song, for instance, and capturing some ideas, do you pick up a pen and paper or what's kind of your mode? What do you do?
Yeah.
Because you're just so used to grabbing the phone, right?
It's just, it's just the phone. But there is something about, there's a permanence with writing something on paper.
Yeah.
So at first it was like, oh, I just got the Google Doc. I've got it. It's efficient, whatever. But then in the process, actually switching over to paper, it just, do I mean what I say enough to spend the energy just to scribble? It's not,
good.
But I'm learning like, wow, maybe there's something to this writing with,
I think so. And John Marc, years ago, I started in music 40 years ago. I can't believe it. And one of the ways that I learned how to write lyrics, because I wanted so badly to write beautiful lyrics like the people of the day, Gaithers, Twyla Paris, if you know who Twyla, I'm still so mad at her for retiring. I just really angry about that. But she was like, the zenith for me. And so I would get the little J cards out of the cassette. Do you know what a cassette is? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they're actually popular again now.
Are they really?
It's just
You're kidding.
No, I've seen people put out cassettes and they're really cool.
Oh, look at that. Oh my gosh.
See?
Well, I've watched it all come and go, but I would take the little printed J card out of the cassette and I would sit and I would write out all of Twyla's lyrics. Like literally write them out, just like she wrote them, because I wanted to feel what it felt like to write something great. And I really believe that there was some kind of, I don't know if it's osmosis or what, but just, when you feel what great words feel like on the paper, on the page, something got in me, and I really believe there was some kind of learning experience at least, but it was more tactile than that. So, are you a journaler?
Wow. I am a journaler in denial. I need to journal.
A non-practicing journal.
Yes,
journaler.
My personality type requires journaling.
No kidding.
And I need to do a lot of that work
Wow.
on my own to process, and I still resist it. And
is that a personality trait too? Is that part of your?
I think that's just a John Marc needs to mature trait. That's an immaturity thing. There's no excuse for that.
Are we talking Enneagram personality types, or what are we talking?
Yeah, sure.
Numbers?
Like, so if you use that, like the 4, the typical artist thing.
Hello.
Yeah, I just listening to my life, journaling helps me do that.
Yeah, right.
If I don't do it, I miss it, and I'm missing a lot of it right now.
But as a songwriter, don't you think it's better to be a journaler, not only to catch ideas, but maybe even generate them?
I think as a songwriter, which I feel weird telling you anything about songwriting, but
tell me, please.
I don't know anything. It's just a battle just to write anything. Isn't that just the goal, just to keep going?
Wow.
To have the courage to put something down. It's terrifying. How do you approach that? If I could flip the script a little bit, like just the fear of putting pen to paper.
Repent. It is nothing but repentance and laying down what you're calling perfectionism. As we just said a minute ago, it's really only pride and fear, and it's self-protection. And so you've got to, it's really popular to say dare to suck. And I don't know who, coined that. But I think there's something to it, because if you can't get at least the beginnings of something down on paper, there's no way to come back and craft it. And so speaking of journaling, I always encourage writers I work with to journal often, if not daily. I've gone through different seasons where I was really great at it, and then some times it weren't. But, just at least a couple of times a week, to where you're used to working with words and letting them flow creatively out of your brain. And, I really encourage people to write what I call VBFDs, which are very bad first drafts. Just get it out and then come back and craft it. It's like, well, I really want to write a song about God not giving up on us. Okay, well, is that a great title yet? I don't know. But you could sit down and write about how many times God's not given up on you. You could sit and journal about, your friends' stories or your parents or your kids, and how God just never gave up, no matter how bleak it looked. And then start picking out keywords and, just kind of fashioning it. So what I teach is craft. You got to start with that feeling, the essence of something. You want to write about something, or for me, it's almost 100% hook driven. Like if we were talking and you said something that had rhyme and alliteration in it and was a cool idea, I would either remember it and secretly write it and never tell you, or I might say, hey, why don't we write that song? Because what you just said was stinking cool. Yeah. And my biggest copyright ever was called Canny Coody Woody. And it's a standard in the Southern gospel world. Only Southern gospel song I've ever had recorded in my life. And it's been part of the standard repertoire for almost 40 years. And it came out of a conversation in a room where we're talking about somebody coming and playing on a demo. And somebody said, well, can he? And somebody else said, could he? Then somebody said, well, would he? And that turned into can he, could he, would he? Yes, he can, he could, he would.
Did you realize it in the moment? Like, this is it?
No, it was just funny. And we just wrote something funny, and Bill Gaither heard it, put it on a Southern gospel record. And it's been like, people are like, you wrote Candy Cuddy Woody. And it's
So
like,
you were surprised
heck
by it,
yeah, I did. That's my song. It's like I'll stop with that. We won't turn into Jeff Foxworthy here.
No,
but,
I like where we're going.
But
This is fun.
Yeah, but I mean, it came out of a conversation. And so when I hear it, I know, okay, my heart goes boom, and we want to write that. And it could be something that happens in a prayer, or reading is just huge for me. I don't know how people can write great words if they're not filled.
What's that like?
With great words. Yeah, so
that's the weakness for me.
Well, dude, I'm gonna give you a little gospel kick in the butt, because it's like a little holy butt kick. But I mean, how can you write if you don't love language? And we're just rehashing. I'm not preaching at you, but we all rehash to some extent. But man, fill your heart. You know what it is? It's intellectual stimulation, feeding your intellect, because God's right up in the middle of your intellect too, right? So if you're afraid to write, it's because you're protecting yourself from potential reactions down the road. So repent. Turn around. That just means turn around. And I mean, I'll just be straight up. The time that I want to write the most is when I'm listening to music. And I was listening to some of your kick butt music today, bro. And I really wanted to write. And it's like, okay, ding, ding, ding. This is a winner. And your record, let's talk about where some of these songs, have come from. Still, of course, is that your single out right now? Or is it?
That's the title track.
I know it's a title. Okay. But man, when you do that falsetto thing, it's just like, move over Minnie Mouse. That's like, wow, you're like, it's beautiful.
Thank you, I guess. That's my favorite comment I think I've ever heard about my falsetto. Move over Minnie Mouse. Look at the alliteration.
Okay, sorry.
Are we writing right now?
Well, maybe move over Minnie Mouse.
I'm giving you a hard time. Yeah.
I haven't been out lately, if you're wondering. It's a little punchy. No, seriously, the whole record is just absolutely beautiful, and all of it. You kind of go from some of the deep worship to a little more pop kind of feeling, kind of at the end, and so it's kind of a nice, like, I think you wanted it to be kind of eclectic, didn't you?
I'm an eclectic person, kind of all over the place in general, and that's kind of how I view music. And so I love pop music so much, and I love songs about Justin Bieber, Justin Bieber. I love songs from Justin Bieber.
There's probably been a few songs about him.
There's a few about him that are also really good. I love, Justin Bieber, Bon Iver, Coldplay, and I love songs about Jesus.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see if I could bring it all together. I knew it might not make sense genre-wise, but I don't know. That's just kind of me, and I just really
I felt like there was a cohesiveness to it. I mean, at least the heart that was coming through.
Cool.
And, some of those more intimate tracks were the ones that were really like pulling me in. The pop stuff, I like it, but it can sort of be background. It's like, okay, let's keep bebopping through our day, driving down the street. But those intimate songs, man, you just pull us into that deep, sweet spot, Thank you for that.
Well, that's cool.
What's the other one? Is it Come? I meant to write it down.
Come Closer In.
Come Closer In. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned
beautiful.
Still, which was funny because that's the song I wrote. That's the oldest song on the record, 8 or so years ago.
Really?
One of the first songs I wrote about Jesus. And didn't know anything that I was doing. I was just ripping off of some chord shapes I learned for the first time in college. And I was really wrestling with just, how does God still love me? Because I don't like how I'm living and how I'm representing him, and I don't get it. And it was a really difficult, dark night. Stayed up all night writing, crying through this song, wrestling with that question of, how does God still love me? And it's really cool to be learning several years later, looking back on that song. One, that it even has an impact, being one of the first things I did, is incredible and humbling, knowing that it's just genuine, and like the Lord I think just uses those genuine things despite its flaws, and maybe it doesn't feel as new and flashy as other things, but to hear you mention that is so interesting, and also makes me think I should have quit 8 years ago and just been done
While
there.
you're ahead, let's just stop now.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's ended up learning recently, now looking back on that song semi-recently, that maybe there's not an answer to that question of why does God still love us still, but man, he does, because it's who he is, and his blood is enough. So
His blood is enough.
Thank you.
You're just dripping hooks,
just dripping hooks.
Just dripping
I'm just
hooks.
fishing for a co-write session. That's what I'm using your show to do.
We'll go Southern gospel today on that, but no, seriously, it's that, I don't know, maybe it's just where I am at this moment, but I just really loved those deep, intimate moments, and they were not like heavily produced, they're very sparse and open, almost as if we're in the room with you, and I think that's really sweet. I'd like a whole record of that. So when you do your second one,
Yes.
could you maybe just do that?
Just do
That's
that?
all. Yet same key. Don't change keys. The whole. Just
Okay, I have permission. I can sing that high?
sing.
I can Minnie Mouse
You
it?
can.
Okay, because I want to. If that's okay.
The whole record. Just
I love
right
no.
up, right up there.
I actually completely agree. Some of my favorite moments too are
yeah.
just the ones that feel honest.
What was your deepest experience with the Lord? I mean, we're talking about, just starting to write, for Jesus, 8 years ago. But what was there something that kind of made you go that way? Were you nearly killed in a car wreck? Did you? What happened that would make you go, oh, okay, I'm not going to write about girls anymore. Let's go to Jesus.
Right. Well, I still haven't repented of that. I continue to write for both.
Okay,
For a
cool.
long time, kind of back and forth, and always felt homeless because I did.
Okay, no, that's cool.
Yeah, pursued pop and singer-songwriter stuff, all the while serving at church and worship leading over the past 10 years, and just trying to figure out where I belonged.
But you feel now you've kind of found
I
it?
think, no, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know who I am. I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I'm heading in the right direction. And so it's been fun to try stuff out. And yeah, the moment of trauma, I guess you're looking for is, I don't know if it was just an inherent thing, but that deep kind of thing that happened to me was just, I don't know if it's personality or how I'm wired, but just really struggling with an accurate view of myself and really being insecurity, seasons of spiritual depression, just being very angry, bordering on just hatred for myself, which is, as a believer, that's not how God sees us, But I thought, well, no, look at what I'm doing. This isn't right. Talk about being a perfectionist. When you carry that over to your faith and you put yourself in charge, grace doesn't make sense. And it took a long time to realize, to submit to how the Father sees me as a child of God, clothed by the righteousness of Jesus. And that's enough. I can't run away from that. And I ran for a long time from my calling as a worship leader. That's part of what, still looking back at it, that song written 8 years ago, I see some of that. Like, wow, I wrote that song and didn't release it for 8 years. I held on to that. And I'm just really glad to finally submit and share it now. And the fact that it's impactful to you is huge.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was beautiful. It is beautiful, and I will listen to it more. So when you say, surrendering to this now, do you feel like you're surrendering some of that self-hatred and the way you look at yourself versus the way God, in the inimitable words of Lauren Daigle, I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. I teach from that song all the time. Yeah. Thank you, Lauren and company. But
yeah, for real.
Yeah, do you feel like you've been able to let go of some of that now or maybe just still in process? Is that even a fair
Oh, it's
question?
huge work. Huge work. You look at the song like on my record, Tapestry, and as an
Love
example
that
of
record.
the joy
Love that
and
song.
the thankfulness and just learning how to lift my eyes up from being so internally focused to who God is.
Hey, don't you think that's Romans 12, kind of renewing your mind anyway?
Oh, for sure.
You
And
know?
throughout all the Bible, like this premise of like, look and live.
Yeah.
Look up from, you see in the Psalms, like look up from your sin and look to the one who can save you and be healed.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah. And I love the video on Tapestry. You're sitting around the little living room. It sounds way too produced for what y'all were doing, but
It does,
just
doesn't it?
Say, but
it does. I don't know how it happened either.
Oh, really?
It sounds fake.
It does.
But I promise
it sounds
you
like
it
that on
happened.
lip sync. It sounds amazing.
It looks like it slips.
Yeah.
I got to look into that, but that was one take.
Tell that blonde-headed girl she needs some new jeans, but besides that.
Whoa.
No, but it's a great song. Yeah, please do. She's like, what?
No, she's way cooler than me. I'm not
who
going to
is
pass it
that?
along.
No.
She's helping me with my style. I need some people to rebuke me.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna get some torn jeans. I'm gonna go get the scissors right now. But no, but so did you finish telling me what was the most profound moment maybe that you had with Christ along the way? What's been your most profound spiritual experience?
Yeah. Man, that's a big
You're
question.
having it right now.
Yeah, it's a big question. It's right now on this podcast, this show. Yeah, no, the moment, what I was referencing to is that moment was writing still was a foundational one for me. That night, I stayed up till 4 a.m., just all the emotion, all the things, kind of therapy. And
Gotcha.
I think that was one of the big turning points with my relationship with Jesus, was working through some of that stuff through that song.
Makes sense. Didn't want to miss the point. Didn't want to miss the, punchline.
No,
from
thank
that
you
story.
It's a great question. No, yeah, I still think that was. There's been other things, obviously, like as an emotionally driven person, like there's a ton of highs and lows, but that seemed to be a pivotal moment where a low was used to bring something good out of it. So like so I stayed up all night. I actually hated the song when I finished it. Hated it. My roommates asked me, what were you singing? I was like, God, it's terrible. It's terrible. I don't care. I had this terrible night, I played it. They were like, you should play it at the little like Baptist coffee shop thing you're doing tonight. And I was like, okay, I will. So I signed up to do this thing, and I could play my songs in front of people. It's like, yay. Did it on campus. And when I was in college and I played that song, and people come up to me crying, sobbing the first time I played it.
I believe
And I'm like, what? Was it that bad? It was that bad. You hated
Get
it.
off
You're
the
crying.
stage.
And they said like how much they connected with it. And so it's really cool to see God bring good out of a difficult season of my life.
Awesome. Well,
even though
I would probably cry the first time I heard it too. So it was beautiful. So new record, new adventures at hand. What are you doing? What are you doing to get out and do the record?
Well, first we're starting with a Christmas tour that we're doing. And so it's featuring not songs from my record, but a couple that I've co-written as a team just with the worship initiative. So we're heading out the first 2 weeks of December. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it.
Awesome. So 23, hoping to tour, kind of get out and promote the thing? Or
Yeah. We're starting some of the promotion now, and we'll be jumping into events and all that kind of stuff, I'm sure. And right now I'm actually thinking about really like how do I be faithful with this next year? And first off, how do I be faithful to put the pen back on the paper? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. So like from my perspective, artists just puts out their first album and there's this pressing need, like I know I need to continue to write even though I just feel poured out. I just gave everything, lost a lot of sleep, aged 3 years, body still recovering from the process. What's your advice to someone like me as far as getting back into writing? You touched on it earlier, but I'm curious.
I think it's the same answer, John Marc. I think it's feeding yourself intellectually. We think, I've got to do all this spiritual stuff, like pray and tithe and go to church and all that. But your soul longs to be fed just as much as your spirit, and to read more, to read things that inspire you, not that you just think you have to read. I got to read these 8 chapters of the Bible today, or God's going to get mad at me. You're not going to get anything out of it that way. But to read great writers, to listen. Again, listening just triggers me for some reason. I hear something and I go off, and then I love all the other ways of writing too, but, listen to some things that you don't normally listen to. Go back to things you haven't listened to in a long time. Explore some new genres of music, go to Apple Music and pull up the singer-songwriter, playlist, and just see what people are doing. That's always inspiring to me. Mm. And then I think really just listening to the message in your own heart, listening to what is your heart telling you that you're about in this, whatever this new season. Because after you tour a record for a year or so, you're going to be a very different person, right? And
listen to the message of your own heart.
Be present to your own heart. Yeah, be present. Listen to yourself. Listen to your heart. Not just the chatter in your brain that's always telling you suck, or you'll never live up, or there'll never be enough money in the bank, or what if people don't like my music, or, all that kind of stuff. It's like there's that constant chatter, but then there's that deep sanctuary of the Spirit. So go there and just listen. Don't tell God what he ought to do, but listen. Just listen. And listen, I would say listen for one word. Listen for one kind of transcendent word, I dare say that, something that kind of like expands your sense of God's presence in that moment. And worship songs can do that, depending on which era we all grew up in, and songs that we love that always kind of do it, But as artists and as writers, I believe we have to be pioneers in some way and kind of think beyond where everything is and the things that we've relied on in the past, and to think creatively, just about where else would the Spirit of God take us in expressing. I don't know if you've felt this way or had people say, there's nothing else to write about in worship. It's all been written. It's like, well, tell Chris Tomlin that when he was going to write, How Great Is Our God, or Fanny Crosby, who wrote over 9,000 hymns.
I'm pretty sure the scripture, like even like the at the end of the Gospels, I think there's a mention of so many more things happened.
Of course there is.
So many more stories, so many. I totally agree. There's so much more there.
Yeah. I think what I'm trying to say is make space. Make space within yourself to just be still and quiet and listen, instead of projecting just what you want. At least I think that's what I'm learning in my life.
Projecting what you want.
Yeah, onto God.
Yeah.
That's such a temptation,
Yeah.
But,
wow. That's worth the price of admission.
There you go.
Alone.
There you go. Well, I think it's the experience of my life right now is I look back from having been in this thing for 40 years. I could have never asked for what I've gotten. I could have never dreamed it up. So 2 scriptures are really important to me. Proverbs 16:9 that says, the mind of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And then Ephesians 3:18 that says God's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think. And I look back at the different transitions, and even though many of them were hard in my life, I could have never dreamed of what God was going to give me on the other side of it. So bringing that all the way back to your question about, you feel spent right now, you've got all this momentum you're having to live into. We all need space to recover from that. A good friend of ours says letting her soul catch up with her body. And I've been in a season like where I could hardly do much, creatively, but as I wait, as I'm just quiet and still, and then begin to feed myself intellectually and spiritually again, it will happen again, because it's just an innate function of God's Spirit in you. That was an incredibly long answer, but maybe there was some good things.
There was an incredibly important
Yeah.
answer. And
Yeah.
I mean, just reiterating what you were saying about leaving space to listen to God and to not fill that space with your own projections on what you want to hear.
Mm.
That alone is way bigger than writing songs.
There you
Like,
go.
you could take that, and I mean, that's something I hope I could remember for my lifetime, you know?
Well, we'll put this podcast on a cassette.
Yeah, that's
and
great.
we'll you can carry the cassette around.
I can't wait to put it into my Walkman.
Yeah, your Walkman. Yeah.
See?
I lived through all of that. You guys look at it like, oh, isn't that cute? Something from the 80s. And I'm like, I was already married in the 80s.
Hey, well, now people are like, streaming music at a low quality rate over Bluetooth headphones, turns out, doesn't sound good.
Who knew, right?
And people, going back to CDs again. So maybe
I wouldn't mind that.
So
at
maybe
all.
we could learn from each other, maybe meet in the middle.
Well, I have just really enjoyed getting to know you and your songs. And are you going to sing something for us today?
I'd love to. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, John Marc Kohl, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Okay. Here we go. Run and run and run is all I've ever done. But still your grace is right beside me. Fight and fight and fight. Oh God, you know I've tried, but I can't tie these demons over. And I don't see how you can love me still. And I don't see how you can love me still. Run and run and run. You pursue in love. You won't lose me when I wander. Fight and fight and fight. You gave your son to die for debt that I could never pay for. And I don't see how you can love me still. And I don't see how you can love me still. And I don't see how you can love me still. And I don't see how you can love me still. You threw my sin in the sea, my vices sunk in your mercy deep. You carry my cross on Calvary. You
bore the nails that were meant for me. With every breath you bore the pain of all my guilt and all my shame. You paid my price on that day. You gave your life and took my grave, and I don't see how you can love me still. And I don't see how you can love me still. And I don't see how you can love me still. I don't see how you can love me still.
Hey, thanks for joining us on the show today. I hope that you'll jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com and check out all the resources there to encourage you in your own songwriting. And if you like what we're doing, why not share this episode out on your socials? You can find the link in the show notes. We'll see you next time.